Yeah, I think first of all, you have to like be clear on your own interests and your own, if you want, like, I would say first to answer maybe broader, I think everybody who has a property, or even if it's a small backyard, I think everybody should get into gardening. Like, it's so satisfying.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Matthieu Mehuys is an award-winning author and passionate landscape architect whose journey from a family farm in Belgium to regenerative farming practices has led him to believe that landscape architects can indeed change the world. His fascination with plants since childhood drove him to become a landscape architect, a role he sees as instrumental in crafting environments that marry aesthetics with positive environmental impact. Through his work, he aims to empower individuals to transform their gardens and farms into spaces that foster biodiversity, restore ecosystems, and reverse climate change. You can learn from Matthieu about the potential for innovative business opportunities within agriculture and gardening, and how connecting to a deeper purpose can lead to both personal and business success. So Matthieu, welcome to the show.
Well, Candy, what an amazing introduction. I'm super excited to be here and to talk about what you've already touched upon.
This is definitely going to be interesting. You know, it's a little bit different than what I've had in general on my show, but a lot of times I like to marry things that people do as a passion personally and business. And I think we're going to be able to do that today with this topic too. But before I get into questions on the topic, I'd love for you just to share your journey of how you started your business and what motivated you to have this career in landscape architecture and regenerative farming.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting journey, at least for me. I love the whole road that I've been on. So to answer that first question, I go back in time, and I go way back in time. Pretty much my earliest memory, as I grew up on a family farm. My father is a farmer, my brother is a farmer still today. And so, yeah, I grew up in that environment. And one of my earliest memories as a child was that I would go out with my father onto the fields in like early spring, somewhat late winter even. And we would go into the middle of the fields where there was a field that looked completely empty. And we would go to the middle as my father started to check on what he had seeded and if it was growing. So we could then see the sprouting of the seeds that he had sown. And that for me was like so fascinating. Like, how on earth is it possible that if you have a tiny little seed, you put it on the soil, that it can grow into a magnificent crop that you then harvest 9 months later, or even in a huge tree, like a massive old oak tree, all came from a seed. So that's where everything kind of started. And then that was around age 3, I think. But then by age 6, I had an amazing teacher at school who also taught us a lot about how to grow plants, how to like do gardening. We even had a small garden on the school premise. So that's something that I would highly recommend to all schools to have that into their curriculum. I think it should be mandatory. But long story short, I came home, said to my parents, I want to start gardening, because on the farm there was no gardening. It was only cash crops and cattle. They said, they had obviously a super busy life. My mother had their own business. They said like, no, we don't have time. There's no space, blah, blah, blah. I persisted. They gave me a little corner in the back of the garden, and I started out with no experience, just started to seed. And I started out with radishes. And for everybody that's listening, if you have limited time, you have your busy life as a business owner, just buy a couple of seed of radishes and see how amazing and fast it grows. So somehow I started out with that, but then through that, I kind of said like, wow, this looks so easy. So I bought a bunch of other seeds, tried out. I failed completely. My garden was completely overgrown by weeds. And this whole story then turns into the rest of my life, where I really understand how nature works. And I could only understand that in retrospect, because then life went on, was in adolescence, studied economics and modern languages, because both of these topics were always interesting to me. But then after studying so long for theoretical things, I went on and said, I want to learn something practical. And I had that background, and I didn't really want to go into farming yet. So then I decided to study garden and landscape architecture, did a bachelor degrees in Belgium, finished that, was feeling like, okay, I could start a gardening company, but I don't feel it yet. Went on to study a master in landscape architecture in Germany, which is very known for the high quality of public green spaces. Got into a 9-to-5 job there, thinking like, this is it. Had my master degrees, and a good paying job. 2 to 3 years in the 9-to-5 job, I become extremely depressed, stuck in a kind of bureaucratic system, even though I loved learning from the German system. So I then hit the road. I quit my job, I hit the road, packed my backpack, and I went to see all of the most beautiful projects in the world that had to do with sustainability, ecology, sustainable farming, because these were all the topics that fascinated me. And I also had a freelance job on the side, so I could sustain my travels, was like just enough to make ends meet, but in that way I could keep traveling. Did that for about 1.5 years. Then COVID hit. Again, my life kind of went downhill. A lot of personal things happened. So it was pretty much then Mother Nature saying like, okay, you've learned all of these things, now start and do something with it. And we can talk about this, like if you want to start a business, I think you can either do it from a way of like, I want to make money from it. But if you're doing it from a space like it's kind of in alignment with your life or what you love doing, it's going to be way easier because you'll be able to persist in the difficult moments. And that's what I did. I started my own business. It's been now 3.5 years fully self-employed and have my own business with my own team, which is growing. And obviously it has its amazing ups and its very tough downs. And then it's just, again, getting through that. So yeah, that's kind of how everything unfolded in a nutshell.
So there are a lot of people who love gardening, right, as a hobby, and they, will work their regular job and then they come home and they do this, or maybe they do it on the weekend and they didn't necessarily even think that there's a business opportunity in it. So I'd love for you just to touch on, what are some of those business opportunities that just the regular everyday person can do that's, not someone who has, hundreds of acres of farmland or something, but they just have their own little space. Like, what could they be doing?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think there's so many avenues, and I'll explain you why I think this is going to become increasingly important. We're getting into a world that is going to be completely automated, completely taken over by AI, which will eradicate most of the jobs, not all, but most of the jobs that can be automated are going to be disrupted within the next, at least like max 10 years. It's going to change. It's already changing now. So then the whole question is like, okay, what do we do with our time? Like everything is done by machines and automation. Where do you fit in? Well, what can robots and AI systems not do? Okay, creative thinking, designing, making gardens. So I see that this is going to become an increasing important topic, because now that you don't necessarily have to do a 40-hour or 50-hour work week, you could maybe do 20, and then you have plenty of time left to grow your own food, because it's very fun to do that. And in fact, just to give you some more details about my business, so I design gardens and we set up everything so that my clients, my one-on-one clients, they don't have to take care of anything. We do everything for them. We organize the contractors. So we take care of everything. But then at some point I had a client who told me, like, we finished a big portion of their property and she loved it. And she said, like, wow, I really like the new garden, but I actually want to now experience it myself. Like, I don't want any more landscape architect. She literally told me. So then, because she had a successful business, she could like take some more time off to do something she really loved, which was then gardening. But she said, like, I don't know how to do it. So from that idea, I said, okay, I'm gonna teach you everything that I know on how to design, create, maintain a garden, like from scratch. And that way the masterclass Garden of Your Dreams was born. So just from like one client telling me, like, I want to learn. So then it grew into, like, now we have multiple people following the courses. And the amazing thing, what happened then, Candy, was that one of my clients who was like, I could see from the beginning, she was really fully committed. She was talented at designing, and I think everybody can be, but she really like got all into the learning program. And she started to show it to friends and family, and they said, like, wow, it looks amazing. Can you do it for me? So like now we're 18 months further. She now has her own landscape design business where she does it for still more like friends and family, but still she's making money from it. Whereas it started for as the idea was to do it for her own. But yeah, I see a huge opportunity because many people want to experience what it is to have a nice garden, to grow their own food, but the knowledge and sometimes the design skills are lacking. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so much to understand. I mean, I'm just kind of learning myself too, now that I have moved to a space that I have where I can garden, but it's like having to understand about soil and when do you have amendments and when do you do certain things, like just that part of it alone. There's so much to learn, let alone on scale, right? And if anyone wanted to start, it would be great to have someone else who has that experience, especially from that area, even who understands, like, the weather and all of these things that go into, being able to start having agricultural products and, growing your food and all of that too, because it could be overwhelming. I know for me, I'm just trying to learn little by little. And, at some point, I'm going to have the time to even learn more, but I figure one step at a time.
Oh yeah, definitely that's the way to go. Like, it's like, give or take, it's always going to be overwhelming. I don't have to lie about it. Even when I started as a kid, like, I was devastated. My whole garden was overgrown by weeds. I had no clue. So it's not easy, but if you get the right guidance and you listen to people that have made all the mistakes, and then you can learn from that. Like my masterclass, it's 9 weeks, and it took me about pretty much a lifetime, but let's say like from learning as a kid already, but let's say like in the field of landscape architecture, including my studies, it took me over 10 years to be where I am today. Now with the 9-week program, and also because I'm incorporating AI into the program, we can now do things way faster and we can get results way faster. And I think the most important part of the whole program is not so much learning or the information, because all of the information, you can find it everywhere. And it's like, that's also overwhelming. You go on YouTube or on Google, how to start your own garden. There's way too much information. And also often it's contradictory. The one says you have to do this, the other says you have to do that. Then there's, should I use chemicals, no chemicals, organic, composting, no composting? Like there's so much information. Some of it is good, some of it is not good, it's misinformation. So how do you navigate that if you want to be successful with limited time? Because you can always experiment and try it out yourself, and by failing you will learn it, but it's going to take you a lot of time and also a lot of money. That's what I see. Some people contacted me, they've already started things, and I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, they've already spent so much money on things that are not good, or it's just the wrong way of doing things. But they got it from like some fancy Instagram videos or something that looks cool on YouTube. So it's just about getting the right direction and the right support. Like also having like, whenever you need support or you have a specific question, to have somebody that can look at it and give you a clear answer is super important, I think.
Right. Well, if somebody then is, an entrepreneur, maybe they're an entrepreneur already, or maybe they want to turn what they have into a business, what can they do to actually use their business to make a meaningful impact on their, local community and, the greater area of the world, and including environmental sustainability in that as well?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have to like be clear on your own interests and your own, if you want, like, I would say first to answer maybe broader, I think everybody who has a property, or even if it's a small backyard, I think everybody should get into gardening. Like, it's so satisfying. Like, we all come from nature, but we've been completely disconnected by urbanization, industrialization, like, and our human race has not evolved that fast to be completely like disconnected from it. That's why I see there's so many diseases, mental illnesses, because, well, it's to a certain degree, it's the chemicals that are also in the atmosphere, but we can't really control that. Well, we can control it in our own environment, but it's pretty much everywhere. There's a lot of pollution going on, but there's ways to also reduce that in your garden. But anyways, what I want to say, like, the effects of starting your own garden, and it's scientifically proven that if you put your hands in the soil, that you absorb microorganisms through your skin, and that improves your brain health and your gut health, because these microorganisms, which is like more known now with the microbiome, is essential for our personal health. So let's put it this way: if you're an entrepreneur and you can put your hands in the soil for half an hour a week, I'm going to tell you, you'll feel happier, you'll show up better to your clients, and you're going to perform better. Like, that's my perspective. So first part, like, I think anybody should get into it, even if you have limited time. Second, to say, like, okay, if you want to make it your business, which will be, business is kind of like, it's the bulk of your time. This is what you do when you're awake. It doesn't have to be like that. Like, I really appreciate people that have that are only working a couple hours a week and they can make a great living or even a good business from it. That's awesome. But if you like want to do that or grow, or anyways, you'll be busy with it most of your time. So you have to start thinking then, in my opinion, like, if I'm going to be spending so much time on this, I should love it. Because if I'm just doing it for the money or for whatever reputation or how it makes you look, then you're going to be out of business within the first 9 months, max a year. And by the way, 90% of businesses go out of business in the first year or two, I think. I don't know the exact research. And maybe that's because people just think it's something cool to do or that it's easy. It's not. So you have to pick something that you love. And one of my mentors, Raymond Aron, who's a New York Times bestselling author, wrote a book that's called Double Your Income Doing What You Love. And I really like this, because when you pick that thing that you love and you just do it from that space and you help people, because in my opinion, the only thing what business is really about is about finding problems that people are facing and solving it for them or with them and supporting them into overcoming problems. So that's, for me, essential, and you should love doing that. So that was, for me, like, I even feel that growing up on the farm, being so fascinated about plants, starting gardening, like, it was kind of pretty clear. And in my opinion, it's predestined. Like, it's somewhat before you're born, it's maybe already decided for you. So it also really helps for people that are still like looking for it, what it is. Like, go back to your childhood and look what fascinated you. What were you doing? Like, even my sister now, she is working on our family farm now. So since 2-3 years, the farm grew, and always as a kid, she loved to make her own little grocery store. She was always doing that all the time. And she had, because she also liked fashion, she got into the whole fashion industry, but it wasn't really what she wanted to do. So then she took a step back from being in the fashion industry, which is very tough. And she joined my brother in the farming business. And now she has that little shop on the farm and she's selling all the products. She's doing the marketing for our own local products. So, and she loves it. So, and why it's also so important, like if you want to be in business, you're gonna have tough moments. I haven't met any entrepreneur that didn't went to like hell. Not just some, I feel a little bit off today. No, you go through hell. This is the reality. So you're only gonna persist through like these extremely tough moments when you love what you do and when you care about your clients and you show up, because otherwise it's not gonna work.
So obviously you're very passionate about this as well, and you want to share this message, with others who maybe are interested too. But, what would you say about what has been effective for you in taking that passion, and the purpose that you have and actually creating that business success?
Really good question. It's interesting because I did a big evaluation of the past year actually today, looking at like what has generated me the most business. And because my business is growing, I'm also evaluating new avenues like social media, growing on other ways than let's say the regular, like I'm moving from a small business to getting employees, and like I'm getting into that realm. And I realized that I was putting a lot of focus on like getting to the next level. And while I was doing that, I lost a bit track, like what has actually brought me to this level where I am today. Like I have over 100 clients that I've served over the past 3.5 years. Maybe it's close to 200. And I checked like, okay, how did they come to me? And most of them came through referrals from friends, from family. Like if you're starting out, you have to tap into your, what they call the warm network. And one of my other coaches also trained me into doing that. It's like, just get out of your own way, because it's not easy when you're starting out. You're like, oh, I don't want to ask my friends. You don't really want to like bother anybody with your new business, but just get out of your own way and pick your phone and just start scrolling through your contacts. And whenever a name pops up and it's like, oh, that person I didn't call for a while or whatever, and just call people and start a nice conversation and say, you don't have to like be pushy or anything. You just say like, hey, I've put together this new business or this new program or whatever you're offering, and I would love to hear your feedback on it. And then try and get them on a conversation or meet them over coffee and say what you're doing, and ask them like, do you know people in your space, in your network that would benefit from this? And from my experience, when you ask it in that sense, rather than do you need this or would this help you, rather asking it like, do you know people, 9 times out of 10 people say like, yeah, I actually need this, or I need a new garden design, or oh, I would love to learn about gardening. So it's really about being very natural about it, because something weird happens somehow when you get into business and the only thing you really want to do is help people and solve their problems. Again, that's what I said. And in order for you to do that on a scale that you have not just one person, you have to ask money for it. Otherwise, you can't pay your taxes, you can't pay your mortgage, whatever you have to do, or you can't employ other people. Like it's just the means. It's just the reality of how things work. So to do that, yeah, you just have to get into your own network and start reaching out to people. And then for me, what really was striking to see is that most of my current clients came literally through friends or family, because I had put the word out that I started my business, and they saw some designs or something, or they were happy about the service, and they started bringing in new clients. So I think that's super important. And then one other thing that I would love to add, what really helps is like when you have a client, treat them like your best friend and like go beyond what, like make an offer and say what you will do. And just keep in mind to do something extra that is completely different from what you are offering. Like do whatever it takes to offer what you said you were going to do, then do it 100%. And then just give a little bit extra. It can be something completely different, something that is not even related to your own business. And that's actually what like creates more clients, because they will remember like, oh, Candy, she helped me with bookkeeping, and she also gave me a flower bouquet from her own garden. Like this is what people remember. And that's like through friendships as well, in a way. So I think that that is super important, because as somebody had told me, like this was also one of my mentors, like 90% of businesses only do like 80% of what they promise they will do. And that's why there are lawsuits. That's why there's a lot of difficult things happening in businesses. It's just because people only do 80% of what they say they're going to do. And then if they deliver 80% of what they say they're going to do, it's also like you as a client, you feel like, okay, they kind of did nearly everything, but they didn't really finish it completely, and it leaves a bitter taste. Like this is a common thing that I see even with contractors in the gardening space. They're like even like 95% done, and I'm like, come on, let's just like nail it and do something extra. And then this client is gonna tell all of his friends and all of his family. So I think treating the clients that you have as like your gods is really what's gonna help you to grow your business.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip to think about as well too, because I think sometimes it's not intentional maybe that someone doesn't want to, but
Oh yeah, totally.
it takes so much, just to operate a business. And like you said, there's only so many hours in the day, and that's not the intention in most cases. But like you said, if you could think of just the little things that might add just that little touch of your personality even into the business, that would just separate you from, the crowd. I think that is a great tip. So thank you for sharing that too. So I know we are coming close to the end of the time that we have together. So I wanted to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share with our listeners, and also if someone would like to connect with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so I think if people, or if you feel like you want to start doing something in the gardening space and you have limited time, limited space, just go to my website, which is called www.gardenofyourdreams.com. And there you can find, I put together like a couple of videos that will help you to start your gardening journey. And like I've put the most essential gardening tools together. I've put some easy to grow plants, also some edible plants that are easy to grow. Like I think this is the best way to go. Start out with this, because I have a saying that I didn't invent it, but I'm saying it over and over again. So when you want to start out gardening, you have to dream big. Like dreaming big, there's no cost to it. It's in your imagination. Dream as big as you can. Like don't be limited by what you dream of your own garden to be. So dream big, start small, and then move fast. I think that's the way to go in gardening. So create a massive vision, start with one small seed, and then keep adding to it over time, and you'll see that your amazing garden will come together faster than you can imagine. So yeah, I highly recommend people to check that out. I'm also on most of the social media platforms, where I also offer some like short nuggets of things that are interesting about gardening or how it will help you. So that's mostly on Instagram. And yeah, so I think that's the best way that people can reach out. They can always send me a message on Instagram, and I will try to respond as much as I can.
Okay. And is your Instagram account under the business name, or is it under you personally?
It's both. So under my personal name, it's more about like gardening tips and tricks. because I love to show people around in the projects in the gardens that I do. And then on my other account, which is Paulonia Landscape Architects, there you will find more like the one-on-one approach of complete remodeling of existing gardens. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to spell that too for anyone who's listening so they can easily find you?
Yes, totally. So that's Paulownia, Paulonia Landscape Architects. And I chose that name because it's a very special plant that is both good for the environment and is also extremely beautiful, as it has beautiful early spring flowers and beautiful huge leaves. So yeah.
Nice. Sounds very wonderful. So thank you so much for just being a guest on my show, talking about this topic. Like I said, I know it's probably a little bit different than what people are expecting, but I thought it would be a great topic to share because there are a lot of people who love gardening and would love to be able to turn it into some type of business. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Candy. Thank you for your great questions.
And I want to thank you, the listener, also for tuning in. I hope you found this topic informative. And if you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guests and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.